Thanks everyone for coming, for helping to share and cultivate our practice space together. As usual, please make yourself comfortable. If you need to be seated or reclined, lying down, if you have a lot of energy and need to kind of just stand and feel the earth beneath your feet, please just take good care of yourself throughout the practice. Today, I'm thinking of introducing, as I've talked about before, possibly in past series with the library, the concept, practice, feeling of equanimity. And equanimity is something we can think of as like an evenness of mind, kind of remaining even keeled, no matter who or what is coming into our lives or into our minds, having less reactivity and more of a sort of sense of balance around being in relationship with all the phenomena happening around us. And even as I say this, I have this fear that it's going to come across as something we use to suppress emotion or suppress difficulty or try to sort of co-opt ourselves into not feeling as much, maybe not feeling as much compassion or hurt or even love and joy. And hopefully in the practice, you'll get a grasp of how that's not what equanimity is. It's rather an opportunity to really open the door into more fully experiencing life and ourselves, but from a space that doesn't feel like we're being kind of jerked around in every direction. There's this groundedness, there's this presence, there's this even keeledness that accompanies our presence, so that we can feel like we can actually expand and engage more in our lives without fear of things feeling like too much. And equanimity is particularly a really great practice for anyone who feels like compassion or empathy type practices causes them this like bleeding heart syndrome. That's one term that's been used by teachers I've worked with, when we just feel like we're feeling too much and kind of drowning in a sense of sympathy or empathy. That's a clear sign that equanimity is something that you can build up so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. This also goes for folks who feel or identify as a highly sensitive person. And even if that doesn't apply, none of that applies to you, I think any time that you're feeling like things are just too much, and kind of overwhelming, especially if you're engaging with a lot of what's happening in the world, having a practice of equanimity can kind of reset the balance and support you in continuing to engage, but in a way that feels more safe and not as chaotic, even if what you're interacting with or relating with is quite chaotic. So the practice itself, I'm going to take you through a journey of inviting 3 different people into your world, the workspace of the mind, or this sort of imaginal space. It might feel like it's kind of in the front of the forehead, or you might literally be visualizing someone in front of you. The first, it'll be someone who's easy to love. So that person can typically come to mind pretty quickly, and we'll just practice kind of seeing and being with them in a very holistic way. The next person will be someone neutral. And by neutral, I mean like an acquaintance, someone who you've seen at least a couple of times. Maybe it's the post person, the person who delivers mail or packages, maybe a cashier at the grocery store. You probably don't even know their name, and certainly not much about them, but you don't have any strong feelings toward them either way, of like lots of love and care or lots of aversion. And then the third person we'll work with is someone who might feel a bit difficult in your life, who's causing some difficulty, who's causing some pain. And for this, I encourage not to bring up the most difficult person or the most difficult circumstance. This is a practice, so we want to guide ourselves into it, kind of gently. Maybe it's someone who just kind of gets under your skin or on your nerves at work. Maybe it's a difficulty in a family relationship, but just allowing and trusting someone to kind of come up to kind of use in this workspace, this practice. And then if there's time at the end, we'll kind of turn all of that sort of equanimity and maybe even compassion around and kind of spread it out to all beings in the world. Spread the sort of positive energy we've cultivated, the light, into the rest of the world. So we'll just dive in. We'll start and end with a bell today. Just let yourself become comfortable. And if at any point, this practice, it feels like too much, especially with the difficult person, I invite you to just kind of take a step back into your breath, re-engage when it feels right for you, but always take care of yourself in your practice. So finding your comfortable seat or whatever position, whatever posture feels good for your body in this moment. Not skipping over, glossing over this part of the practice, this transitioning into your body, into your posture, really arriving in your space. You might sense the contact points between yourself and whatever surface is rising up to support you. You might notice the temperature of the air around you. Kind of just sensing the space, sensing your arrival into the space. And then perhaps noticing the rise and fall of the breath. If your mind feels particularly active or kind of antsy, I'm just using each inhale and exhale as an invitation to help it kind of come to rest or come to a little bit of stillness. And then starting to shift your attention now that you've kind of arrived in your body, in your space. Shifting your attention, your awareness to the space in front of you. That might mean the actual physical space. It might mean the workspace of the mind. So that sort of projector that comes out from the front of the forehead, that space where you typically visualize or imagine things. You might even notice like a stage kind of manifesting in front of you in this space as we prepare to welcome folks in our life into the space. And first, we invite someone into this space who we find easy to love, someone for whom we have genuine care and love and positive feelings towards. you can go ahead and trust the first person that comes to mind, and just noticing how they maybe make their way out onto that stage or kind of materialize in front of you. Noticing, yeah, their countenance, the facial expression, maybe what they're wearing, the familiarity of it all. And perhaps your eyes kind of meet each other, and yeah, you just see how joyful they are to see you, to be with you in this space. And for you, I invite you to take this time, this space to really see them. Maybe recalling some of the good times that you've shared together, the ways you've shared joy or laughter, and also perhaps the difficult moments that you've shared or that this person has struggled with in their life that you know about, that you've witnessed. Just taking a moment to kind of soften, open your heart to see, yeah, how they've felt challenged, how they've suffered, and maybe how they've kind of made their way through those challenges too, and how much love and compassion arises when you recognize that. It might feel like kind of seeing and understanding them in a way that you typically don't on a daily basis. Just really seeing them with your whole heart. And maybe there's a natural pull to kind of lend them some love and compassion, some acknowledgement in this moment. And if there is, go ahead and do that. And then if it feels okay for you, just inviting this person to kind of come maybe sit next to you on your right side. So we don't have to say goodbye yet. They're going to come and join you in this space, kind of fortifying the space with more love, connection, compassion, understanding. And then next, we invite to our mind's eye or the space in front of us someone who feels kind of neutral, like an acquaintance. Maybe it's someone you see in your neighborhood or on your daily or weekly errands. You might know their name, you might not, but just inviting whoever comes to mind into your space. And just allowing yourself to kind of see them to maybe a bit more fully than you're used to. So noticing how this person who maybe you've met in just very specific contexts or encounters, they're actually much more three-dimensional, that there's so much you don't know about them, who they love, the people who love them and care for them, and that they likely have goals and dreams and desires for their life. That they too probably struggle in some way or have faced challenges in their life. challenges that maybe they've overcome or some they're still facing. And that at the core, they likely just want to be happy. If it helps, you can, yeah, kind of set your gaze upon their eyes too, like you did with the first person. And just allow your mind, your heart to kind of open to the fact that there's so much life to this person. They have a whole world that they inhabit that we don't know much about the specifics, but we know that they too are human, that they face human challenges, make mistakes, try to reconcile. They want to be happy. And then if you'd like to kind of extend some well wishes toward them, some loving kindness, go ahead and do so. Maybe they smile or soften at receiving this. And then inviting them to come sit next to you on your left side. So again, fortifying your space with even more understanding, with shared connection. And from here, we invite our third and final person into the space. And this person is someone with whom you've had some difficulty, perhaps. That you might find challenging or have found challenging. That might kind of get on your nerves, either at work or in the home or in other spaces that you inhabit. And without forcing anything, just letting yourself kind of witness them in this space, knowing that you have choice and agency over, how much of a distance to keep them at, etc. What is it like to just kind of witness them and see them without them acting out any of their frustrating behaviors or words? They're just kind of there. And go ahead, and if it feels good, you can acknowledge, the challenges that they've caused in your life. We don't have to suppress that. But also leaning into seeing, this person's qualities, characteristics, behaviors, words a little more holistically. Is it possible for you to be aware of how they too probably are suffering in some way, especially if their actions or words are reflective of some pain or fear kind of beneath the surface for them? Or maybe just a lack of understanding. Maybe they're stressed. We're not trying to excuse anything or dismiss or invalidate, but just opening up to a little more understanding, kind of seeing things more holistically. You might even recognize that this person too has people they deeply love and care about. and that there are people who love and care about them, who think the world of them and care for their well-being. And that they too have probably experienced kind of guilt or shame or made mistakes, faced challenges in their life that we might know nothing about. And that they too want to be happy. Deep down, they likely really just want to be happy and feel safe, cared for, at ease. Maybe in this understanding, you see their countenance or their posture kind of soften, surrender a bit to being seen and understood. And only if it feels right, to the extent that you'd like, I invite you to offer them some well wishes or loving kindness. Maybe knowing that the more kind of care and sense of safety they feel, perhaps the less they'll act the way they do. And then inviting this person to come sit next to the acquaintance on your left, so you have some space from them. And the four of you seated here, fortified by this maybe expanded sense of understanding, of knowing each other, or knowing that you don't know everything about each other. I invite you, if it feels good, to share any loving kindness or compassion out onto the world, to all sentient beings. So that light, that luminosity of understanding, of loving kindness, of compassion, of wisdom, knowing that all beings most likely really just do want to feel safe or good, cared for, happy. And if that doesn't feel right for you, just allowing yourself to kind of bask in the experience of the practice. Perhaps feeling a little more even-keeled, a little less reactive, a little more expanded in your understanding and awareness of the complexity of the human condition and the beings you interact with. And then wherever you are, just kind of softening your focus, letting your attention, your awareness wander back to your own body, lovingly kind of saying goodbye for now to those people that you worked with in this space. Noticing the breath in your body, the inhales and the exhales, the space of the room around you, the earth supporting you. And then sealing your practice with a gesture if that feels good. Sometimes that can be just resting a hand at heart center or palms together in front of the heart or the forehead. And at the sound of the bell, coming back to our shared space. So taking your time to kind of arrive back, I invite you to stretch. If you have a journal with you and you enjoy taking a few notes after your practice, you're welcome to do that. Yeah, really understanding ourselves and others, I think, in a less narrow framework than we typically do, than the sort of busyness of our lives often allow us to. And yeah, the words, the sort of feeling tones that come to mind for me in that practice is a sense of just expansion, of like widening our scope of awareness, of opening to just understanding people or other situations for their complexity and more holistically, when not with the intention of trying to befriend everyone. And, I'm thinking of the difficult person, but just to at least open to more of a sense of understanding and connection. It can really help us feel more embodied and safe in the connection as well.